Okay, so this is a short video presentation for technology and lectures. Okay, so why would you want to use sort of more technology in teaching other than just PowerPoint? When I started lecturing, actually in University of Utah, I'd sometimes stop and ask a question to the whole class. And normally what happens, only a few people answer. And also I'm still doing this a little bit when I'm teaching in the planetarium at the University of Plymouth. We have a course in there and we show sometimes videos or do some demos, some star applications, and then ask a question, and some of the keen people answer, but a whole lot of people won't. And this is not good. So the people are saying, really, you want everyone to at least think about the question, at least try a simple question in lecture, and then you want some kind of anonymous system to poll some of the class, and some kind of idea work, and then the students can see whether they're right or wrong for very low stakes. Doesn't matter. They want to know if they got it right or wrong, and they can tell whether their answer is corresponds to what the class thinks, and indeed whether it's correct as well. Also in the school, so this motivates the use of things like clickers. In the School of Computing, Electronics and Mathematics at the University of Plymouth, we give each of the students an iPad mini, and I mean, obviously we're under some kind of pressure to use these effectively, but a long time I've always wanted to be able to run, if you're teaching some kind of mathematics or physics, you'd also like to stop the lecture and then let them play around with a little demo of something on their iPads. And I've not fully had time to all do this. Another issue for technology is I don't actually use PowerPoint. The system I use to make these slides, these slides are actually made by Google Slides, but normally I use a system we use in mathematics called LaTeX, and it's good for mathematics. But it's not really clear to me that PowerPoint is optimal for teaching purposes, and there could be other options, which I'll talk about a little bit. So what I'm going to look about on Wednesday is the number of different options for clickers. These are things you can, for multiple choice, you can do A, B, or C, D, and so one of the famous ones is called Turning Point. There are little links here you can click on. I'll talk about it a bit later. Socrative, I guess. This one's for small classes. This is free, but this one people just use their mobile devices. This one on the top, we actually have to use dedicated hardware. So this is the one I'll spend most of my time doing. Also, presentations. One we're always fighting in our school is in many universities there are like whiteboards and blackboards, and it's kind of important when you're demonstrating maths to actually be able to write mathematics on the board. And but somehow at Plymouth there are many of the classrooms don't have functional whiteboards, or they have, it's like a meter square and it's very hard. And one of the issues of the whiteboard is you can actually write out, quite a lot of stuff, and then they can see parts of some mathematics several steps back, so they get a more holistic approach to seeing a big calculation. And this is very hard to do with current kind of PowerPoint-like systems, because they put on very much on. So one of the things I've been trying to do is obviously to use some kind of iPad placements. I'll have a go at trying to use this Explain Everything, which is an iPad app which you can write on. I mean, this is like to make the lecture more interactive, is you can actually write stuff on the board, just like an old traditional university system. And I encourage you you should be able to link on these PDFs. This thing here is a presentation I made of using clickers at a meeting maybe 2 years ago, and this is a slightly non-standard presentation package. It's not PowerPoint based, it's kind of more web based, and you click on it and it actually makes me feel physically ill to move between the boxes, but it's another option if you're just bored of always looking at PowerPoint slides. Okay, so these clickers are when you can actually click on a question. We'll see it later. And so the number of issues with it, things like Socrates requires that if it's going through the wireless, it requires that the wireless signal can cope with all the class trying to access the quiz. We've certainly had problems at CPT sessions at the University of Plymouth where the wireless signal was just not good enough to do. We wanted to use something like iTunes University, and the wireless signal to use in one of the labs just failed, and so we mostly found if we could go on our phone. Another important issue is if you're using smartphones or tablets to access quizzes, not everybody has a smartphone or tablet. Most people, well, I mean, this is kind of a diversity thing. It could be if somebody's working in a family and they might just have a cheap phone because they're putting all their money into kids at university. So it's very hard for us to always assume that everyone has one of these smartphones, tablets. Obviously, I think what you can do is just get people to share, and sometimes you can print out the quiz as well and just display it. Okay, one of the things I'm going to say is when you have a dedicated clickers, these are sort of dedicated special hardware. You know, if you're in a class of 100, you sort of hand these things out and then get them back at the end, and also they're quite expensive, you'll see. And also some of these things I've seen some the University of Colorado. There's a collections of questions about clickers, and some of the questions I thought were a bit trivial. They'd be sort of asking, you know, how was your trip to work today, and you know, how much time you're doing spending work on this course per week. And so there's a whole bunch of these what I view as kind of trivial questions, and occasionally you do wonder if these clickers things are gimmicky. I've personally never actually used clickers in a class, so I think I'm going to have to do for this course next year, just to make it more interactive. I just need more carriage. I've used it for sort of for staff members, but it's just a sort of threshold effect. What I'm going to talk about, I guess Marjan used Moodle as well. For assessments, we use Moodle quizzes for online assessment. So at the moment, they just do these so the students. So I set little quizzes, and the Moodle will actually evaluate them. The kind of subjects that we teach is well, physics. So this is a question about density in a neutron star, and they can plug in the numbers. And normally they do this, they work in a computer lab outside the lecture. But in principle, they could actually use, perhaps, I mean, you can access these Moodle sites using Moodle quizzes inside the lecture, and this might be a way to make the lecture more interactive. And also we use something called MapleTA, which is a mathematics package especially designed from a company in Canada. And in principle, my understanding is you can load in some of the quizzes actually onto the iPad as well, but this may be more specialized. And I don't know how your Moodle system, Marjan, actually works. If it has Moodle quizzes, I kind of assume it does. But okay, turning point clickers. This is what they're like. These are little gizmos which I'll hopefully hand out to each one of you on Wednesday, and then you press on the different buttons. Here's the A, B, C, D, and it transmits your answer off, and it gets displayed on the PowerPoint. We actually, in the Department of Mind Science, we lend clickers to all the students in the mathematics of various years, but I don't believe they're widely used. I think just a few lecturers are using them. And also when they did the survey, they often find that not everybody brings the clickers into class. The advantage of these things, they use their own wireless networks. And now there are cloud options. This Turning Point now offers a cloud, and I think at Plymouth there are 2 licenses available for up to 500 students, but I guess there's not too many options. The main disadvantage to me is they're actually quite expensive. So they used to be about £50 per clicker. I mean, I don't know why they're so expensive, but you know. But on the other hand, you know, spend per student and all that. Okay, so here I have some research article. This is a kind of review article of clickers in the classroom. I think it's quite old. So it has various references to it using clickers, response systems. See this short video. So this video here I encourage you to look at. It's used to clickers. It's only about 2 minutes long. Here he uses it in a physics course, and it's kind of interesting what he does. He puts out a simple physics question. There's no actual calculation. It's a qualitative calculation, and then he gets the students to vote on it, and then he goes, well, okay, and then they find there's like 3 options, and then 2 of the options seem to be, the class seems to be evenly split, and he goes, okay, have a discussion amongst yourselves about what the best option is. It's about a pendulum swinging in a, whether it is you move the pendulum up a hill, up a big mountain, whether the pendulum goes slower like a clock, and then he gets the students to do a discussion, and then he retests them again, and then you find that afterwards that more of the students move over to one of the answers, and that's the sort of way that some of the US physics education research people do. They actually use clickers and peer assessment to help the students understand those things. But a key point, it's not like it's not just randomly like you just get peer assessment where the students just randomly talk about stuff together. Here, there's some kind of feedback mechanism where the actual, you know, they're guided to the correct answer, and the instructor as well, if he sees that the there's still a substantial fraction of the class is not getting the right answer, then I'll put more work into the concept. I should say I actually do have some problems with this example. It is kind of I mean, he's spending quite a lot of time on quite a small problem, and it's not totally clear to me that in a standard lecture you should be spending so much time, like 15 minutes or 10 minutes, which could be a quarter of your lecture on just this one problem. Okay, Dan, so that using clickers is not sometimes controversial. This is a blog post. In MIT and Harvard, they stopped doing large-scale lecturing, and they made a big splash in the New York Times how they replaced their large lectures. Instead of 100, 200 people, students, they moved it on to discussion groups of students sitting around, working in groups on computers, and then there's some review why some of the students are complaining about it. And at least one of the issues with the peer assessment, if you have a student who's very, very good, and he knows the answers, he ends up explaining it to all his the weaker students, and and then they feel, well, why am I'm not getting educated? I'm somehow doing all the work. What's the instructor doing? And okay, so this is obviously a blog post. This is a sort of more discussing some of the issues of teaching and physical education. This is kind of trying to use more quantitative effect, and it discusses the effect of how to measure whether using, say, a clicker is effective or not, and and why some of these more innovative methods have not been as widely used as perhaps they might be. Okay, so hopefully on Wednesday I'll have more experience with the system and we can actually play around with some of the technology.